I'm not a geek. I'm not a counsel. I am an idiot. Hey folks, we have reached the end of Series 8 of Doctor Who for the rewatch on this Take 2 Doctor Who review. Death in Heaven. I'll just kind of jump to the end. It's really good. I actually think this two-parter overall is one of the stronger finishers for Doctor Who in general. I think closers can be tough on this show. And oftentimes you end up with two-parters with one half being significantly better than the other. And it would vary on which was which. So, like, I'm of the opinion that in the case of Series 1 and Series 2, the second halves were much stronger than the first halves. Series 3, I actually have problems with that thing overall, but first half was better than the second. Series 4... second half was a little better, but pretty close. Series 5, first half was way better. Series 6 was just a mess on that one. Series 7, it's not a two-parter. It's a standalone piece. Same with Series 6 for that matter. But here, Series 8, it is a good, solid story that progresses great through both halves. And even taking it out on its own is a good way to close it out. Including some things that don't stick, and I wish they did, but we'll get to that. Not the fault of this episode. We're coming off the back of the reveal of the Cybermen, Missy being the master, and I like at the front, Unit is there, on the ball. Now, we do find out later that Missy actually lured them there, and that's fine, she would do that, but I just like that they're already there. They're not scrambling. They're on top of this already. Not as on top of it as they think they are because they're dealing with Missy. But still, I like that. I like that we just have units showing up being competent at the front end, doing the job the way they are supposed to be doing it. I am totally good with that as a way to bring them back into the story. Now, the Doctor's the president of the world thing, I don't know about that. Part of it is that the fact that he's the leader of the entire world never actually impacts the story, because the story never leaves the UK. So all they would have had to do was to have Missy initially taking over the UK, and that the clouds that she was setting up, those were going to spread worldwide and drop the seeds and everything all over the place, or something to that effect. There's no reason for the threat to initially be all over the world, although it doesn't hurt it. But then I figured that was the reason why they made the Doctor the emergency leader of the entire planet as opposed to just the UK. And there's the logistical thing, like, do I believe that the nations of the world would actually agree to do this? I don't, but it's a show. Here they do, whatever. But it doesn't impact anything. The fact that he's the president of the world has zero impact on the story, so I'm not entirely sure why it's there. So that's a bit of an odd beat. I really do like Michelle Gomez as Missy. I like her so much. She is so fun and chaotic. And in a way that feels calculated, if that makes sense. Like, at some points when Sim was playing the Master, he was chaotic, but it felt like, in a way, like he couldn't control what he was doing. Sometimes. It honestly felt like here, it always feels like Missy's in control, but the things she has decided to do are chaotic. So I kind of just like that better. Like, this person is in control of their faculties, but they are deciding to do things that do not follow standard thought processes. And so trying to get ahead of them is just not really going to work. And I like all that. So the killing of Osgood. I gotta write this. I have so many videos up where I accidentally call her Oswald. It's embarrassing. But anyways, so the killing of Osgood, I remember initially not liking that. It kind of grew on me as I thought about it over time as a necessity, because what we'd seen of Missy up to this point leaned towards, campy's the wrong word, but, playful almost. She's toying with the Doctor, and, she's got Cybermen out, but she was captured almost immediately, and the Cybermen just kind of flew off and we don't know what they're doing. She doesn't feel like a threat yet. I mean, Michelle Gomez has her presence. Obviously, everyone's taking her seriously, but she hasn't really established herself as a threat yet. So killing what was definitely a character I liked. If you didn't like Osgood, fine. But a character that, so far as I could tell, most of the fans liked, in that way, does a really good job of establishing that Missy may be playful, she may be fun, but she is still dangerous. So it does actually serve a purpose, and it's not just, we got to make the villain hateable. Like, no, we need to establish the rules for this specific version of the Master. This is always something that the show doesn't always successfully do, and I'm not just talking New Who, sometimes in classic as well. Anytime we get introduced to a new iteration of either the Doctor or the Master, they really need to establish the rules for this version. There are certain inherent things that you can assume about either one of those characters, but the specifics, you gotta lay that out. And laying out her, proving her to be just as deadly as any other iteration of the Master, yeah, they kind of needed to. And to not have it be with faceless soldiers. Although, note on that, this was really dumb. This was. So, she's handcuffed and she's taunting Osgood, and eventually Osgood goes back and reaches into her pocket and goes, "These handcuffs, they're not mine." And Missy has a line, "Oh, they must be mine." And then she lunges at Osgood and kills the soldiers. On paper, that's fine. Practical sense, watching it though, are we sure those two guys were soldiers and not just mannequins? Because they never move. So, Osgood, finds the handcuffs in her pocket, and Missy, hands untied, reapplies her lipstick. These guys just stand there, lunges across this room at Osgood, and then turns around and fires her little beam and kills them. And when the beam hits them, they're still just standing there at attention. What's it gonna take for you two to move? Oh, God, if you notice it, which I've now brought your attention to, so sorry, but now you get to experience my pain at how stupid that is. Oy! Okay, so, bit of a nitpick on that. Let's talk Danny and Clara, because we kind of have to. Let's start with just Danny. I actually really like that they kind of cover all their bases using him to illustrate what's going on with the Cybermen. So we have this whole thing of they pushed him within the nether sphere to delete his emotional responses, which would have been him voluntarily setting the emotional inhibitor. Now, I'm not entirely sure why he needs to agree to do that himself and why they don't just forcibly do it to him, but I'm prepared to let that bit go, because that means that because he didn't actually get around to doing that, when he gets uploaded into his cyber-converted body, he still feels, and it hurts. And we've established that about Cybermen in New Who. This existence hurts a lot. And in addition to that, everything going on with Clara, he feels hurt from that as well. So I feel all of that was well played, and then bringing up, her going to turn on the emotional inhibitor. Now, is it a little cheesy that the inhibitor gets turned on and he still kind of protects her and doesn't totally obey orders? Yeah, but I don't know. It covered enough of its bases that I'm okay with it. Because the whole thing establishes like he shouldn't be feeling in the first place. That shouldn't be going on at all. But we have a reason for that. So it's not like the entire scene of him being a Cyberman is all about the strength of the human will. It's like, no, the inhibitor's off. And then when it gets turned on, the stretch for which maybe it's that and maybe it's, the power of love, whatever, is a significantly shorter chunk of his being in this situation. And I can roll with it. I can deal with it. I get it if some folks don't. I get it if it doesn't work for everybody. Oh, another random note. We get it firmly established that Missy was the one who put Clara and the doctor together. Why? Like, she says, like, what a perfect matching, the control freak and the man who won't be controlled. And I'm like, oh, okay, so it's for laughs, I guess, but you're really committed to it. Like, you took multiple steps to ensure that they stayed together, and that for all the effort you put in, I feel like it should have been for more of a reason than that. I don't know if there was going to be a deeper reason and they just cut it because it wasn't worth it, or if Moffat assumed he would come up with a deeper reason and never did. I don't know. But there isn't really a solid reason given, at least not as yet. And this is the point at which they established it was definitely her who gave the number for the Doctor's TARDIS to Clara and who put the ad in the paper for Deep Red. Like, we know it's her, but we don't know why. Like, that's confirmed, but why? I don't know. Oh, another thing with Danny, I don't know why, but there's something I really liked about his line, the promise of a soldier, and then him clarifying what that is. And it rang really true. I've never served in the military. Never had an interest in serving in the military. I've known some people who have, though, and him saying that the promise of a soldier is you will sleep safe tonight, that rang really true to me. I don't know if that's an actual motto for any armed forces, but it rang true to the mentality of the people who I have known who have been voluntarily involved in some way in the military. So I thought that was good. That was good stuff. The stuff that goes on with Clara and Danny, well, actually, first of all, Clara with her whole I'm the doctor, Clara Oswald never existed. Like, I get why she does it, that she's just stalling for time, but the scene feels very weird. Honestly, it feels like it was made only for a next time on Doctor Who clip. Because at the start of, or at the end of In the Forest of the Night, before the beginning of this two-parter, we had a clip that included that moment. I'm not Clara Oswald. Clara Oswald never existed. And it feels like they wanted to do that tease and wrote this scene just basically for the sake of a trailer. Because I get that she's babbling to talk her way out of it, but I don't get why she's saying what she's saying. And I know it's not foreshadowing to the idea that she's going to start behaving more like the Doctor, and that's ultimately going to be sort of her path in Series 9, which it is, but she was supposed to leave at the end of this series. This was supposed to be the Emperor, but Jenna Coleman decided to stay on longer. So I know it's not intentional foreshadowing for that at the time, so I don't know why that was written. It's not particularly clever, and it's just awkward enough to feel like that's just trailer bait, isn't it? But her interactions with Danny, they feel solid. They work. I think it's mainly sold by the actors. The performers, they make it work. The cyber brig, that is really just odd and kind of cheesy, but I like it. I don't know why. It actually kind of choked me up a little bit. The Doctor saluting to this cyberized version of the Brigadier who saved his daughter. Maybe it's because I'm a parent and I have a daughter. That might honestly just be all there is to it, but I did like that. And it felt like a nice additional final note for the brig, having acknowledged Nicholas Courtney's passing back in Series 6. So that this was just nice. I enjoyed that. So the Doctor's speech at the end. There's a reason I quoted "I am an idiot" at the start of this. that statement that he makes, I'm not a soldier, I'm not a president, I am an idiot with a screwdriver passing through and helping out. That, to me, is the mission statement of the version of the Doctor that I love best. And I don't just mean Capaldi. I mean the way that the Doctor gets handled as a character. That is how he was handled for pretty much all of Classic Who. And it's what I enjoy best in terms of how the character gets approached. Because the character's importance has gotten inflated over time. It got inflated during Tennant's run. It got supercharged during Smith's. And here in Capaldi's, I like this sort of restatement of purpose. He's not the end-all, be-all. He's just a person passing through, trying to help. That's it. That's what I want out of my Doctor. And I love hearing Capaldi say those words. I love it. I absolutely adore it. And I also like that Missy just gives him the army, with her motivation being, I want my friend back. She feels alone, and she wants an assurance that she isn't. And this is how she's decided to try and get it. The whole, Missy gets killed, I didn't buy that for an instant. Not even first time I saw it, I'm like, she teleported. That even looked the same as when she teleported earlier the same episode. Yeah, and of course I was right. But they don't try and play it off like a huge grand thing when she comes back next series. So speaking of next series, so I really like the end where Clara lies to the Doctor saying that Danny came back when in truth he sent back the kid that he killed accidentally in combat, the civilian casualty, and that the Doctor lies to her that he found Gallifrey. I love this scene of them each lying to the other to try and spare them pain when both of them are in very similar pain of having to swallow a loss and thinking that they were going to get something back and it got taken away from them. But in trying to spare the other one pain, they lied. They both lie to each other. And I wish that had been it. I think that would have been a brilliant way to close out their story. Because something that I'm learning, and I'm going to keep a very careful eye on this as I go through Series 9, the Doctor and Clara, Capaldi's Doctor specifically, aren't actually good for each other. They're kind of toxic together. They kind of bring out the worst parts of each other. And I don't mean that in the traditional toxic relationship of they yell and scream and hit each other or whatever, but she pushes him in such a way that he is willing to entertain notions or to do things or to consider doing things that the Doctor wouldn't normally do. And she is so headstrong that she can get him to do things that he just shouldn't. They're toxic in that way. And I am going to keep an eye on that to see how that tracks over Series 9 in terms of leading up to Hellbent. And we'll see if that perspective makes that episode go down any better for me. I doubt it, but we'll see. And I guess what I mean when I say that this would have been a great ending is this would have been a really fitting way for a toxic relationship to end in the least dramatic fashion possible. They just both lie to each other and walk away. And it's tough with toxic relationships. They can be rough for me to watch, especially prolonged. And I kind of would have liked this relationship to have closed out there. It didn't. Got Last Christmas coming up. But before that, I've got to do a ranking of these episodes. There's other stuff to do, but that's Death in Heaven. I have my nitpicks, clearly. When do I not? But I did really like it. Have you rewatched it lately? What'd you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. You know all the stuff to do. Like, subscribe, support me on Patreon. That's kind of the big one. It is, it's what's paying the bills right now. Barely. Actually, not really quite covering them, but working on that. So all that stuff, you know what it is? I've also got merch and links to social media, all those things, but you also don't have to. End of the day, you are the council. I'm just running the meetings. And until next time, this council is adjourned.